of our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says you must get rid of all inner as well as outer moments of anger, impatience, and dislike. If things go wrong or are done wrongly, you will simply say, "The Divine Mother knows," and go on quietly doing or getting things done as well as you can without friction. With always our love and blessings, says our Divine Mother. December 5th, 1950. Sri Aurobindo stated in Sri Aurobindo Savitri, the Absolute, the Perfect, the Alone, has entered with his silence into space. He has fashioned these countless persons of oneself. He has built a million figures of his power. He lives in all who lived in his vast alone. Space is himself and time is only he. A calmness engulfs the premises as leaves gently rustle in the winter breeze. Sri Aurobindo's Mahasamadhi, 5th December 1950. On 5th December 1950, at 1:26 a.m., Sri Aurobindo left his body, and by morning, the entire body was seen to be suffused with a golden crimson hue, so fresh and so magnificent, lifting us from the pall of gloom to a mute wonder. This supramental light remained for 5 days at a stretch, and many people witnessed the magnificent and unique phenomenon. A mortal body generally shows signs of decomposition within 24 hours, but for 5 days, Sri Aurobindo's body remained intact with no signs of discoloration or decomposition. Gradually, on 9th December, the light began to fade, and in the evening, the body was put in a rosewood box and laid to rest in the ashram courtyard under the cool shade of the service tree. Our Divine Mother on Sri Aurobindo's Mahasamadhi. Our Divine Mother says, he had accumulated in his body much supramental force, and as soon as he left, you see, he was lying on his bed. I stood by his side, and in a way altogether concrete with such a strong sensation as to make one think that it could be seen. All the supramental force which was in him passed from his body into mine, and I felt the friction of the passage. It was extraordinary. It was an extraordinary experience. He was not forced to leave his body. He has chosen to do so, says our Divine Mother. Our Divine Mother says, Sri Aurobindo is constantly among us and reveals himself to those who are ready to see and hear him. The sacrifice of our Lord Sri Aurobindo. 1:26 a.m. December 5th, 1950. A moment like any other, in a night, like many a night, except to those who watch in the room where for over 2.5 decades Sri Aurobindo had lived. For them, there was all human history coming to a cryptic climax after summing up in himself the aspiration of man in entirety. Man, the soul, the mind, the life force, the body, and after bringing a power of complete Godhead to answer this fourfold aspiration, Sri Aurobindo was throwing away the earnest of the final and supreme triumph, a physical being in which the very cells were beginning to flower into a divine substance, such as the world had scarcely dreamt of in even most of its apocalyptic hours. The doctors who were his attendants knew their patient to be no mere mortal. They treated this body for what they recognized it to be, a vehicle of supernatural light, and they had to accept the mysterious no. He had categorically returned to the anxious question which had meant, are you not using on yourself the sovereign spiritual force with which you have saved hundreds? The body that seemed able to live without end by the protection of all transformatory power was being allowed by its master to suffer extreme uremia and passed into profound unconsciousness. Indeed, the doctors were permitted, as if out of compassion for them, to try their palliatives after the mother has declared he has decided to withdraw. But there was no suspension of Sri Aurobindo's fiat. Though he had the whole perfection of man in his own hands, he should lay aside its last victory in himself and embrace death. No doubt it was not death in its utter commonness. There was no failure on Sri Aurobindo's part. This is certain from the psychological and physical details put together. The news spread quickly, and this was flashed at once all over the world. Sri Aurobindo's body was to lie in state till noon, and the ashram gates were to be thrown open to enable all to pay their homage to the Mahayogi. While Pondicherry was stunned by the news, the sadhaks were overwhelmed by the sudden sense of desolation. It was as though a fathomless zero was flung across the world. Leaders and savants who had known Sri Aurobindo and those who had only followed his career from a distance or merely read his books, all were equally shaken by the news that came over the air. By 5 a.m., Sri Aurobindo's body, covered in spotless white silk, was laid in state on a cot, itself covered in pure white, in the room he had occupied for 23 years. A painting of the Buddha from Ajanta adorned the eastern wall, and the whole room was strewn with flowers. A divine mother, in her great silent strength, watched the solemn proceedings from upstairs through a window overlooking the courtyard. Now that her spiritual comrade and divine co worker of over 35 years had chosen to withdraw from the scene, who could weigh the atlas of responsibility that now lay on her shoulders? But then didn't Sri Aurobindo anticipate it all and forewarn all when he dictated just a few weeks before his passing? A vast intention has brought two souls close, and love and death conspire towards one great end. Death, so called death, was a beginning of greater life. Who could say what the divine intention was? What was God's secret plan? Alone, alone, seemingly alone in her immaculate solitariness, alone in the earth's transforming hour, alone when the soul of the world, that is Satyavan, is held to ransom by the Asuric hordes of the dark, the hideous specters of a possible nuclear war. What was to be the mother's role in context of December 1950? Again, had Sri Aurobindo divined and even created her predicament and prescribed her course of action in the great passage. As our Lord Sri Aurobindo quoted in Savitri, almost the last thing he did as a poet with a vision and the vision voice divine. As a star, uncompanioned, moves in heaven, unastonished by the immensities of space, traveling infinity by its own light, the great are strongest when they stand alone. A day may come when she must stand unhelped on a dangerous brink of the world's doom and hers, carrying the world's future on her lonely breast, carrying the human hope in a heart left soul, to conquer or fail on a last desperate verge, alone with death and close to extinction's edge, her single greatness in that last dire scene, she must cross alone a perilous bridge in time and reach an apex of world destiny where all is won or all is lost for man. For this, the silent force came mission down. In her, the conscious will took human shape. She only can save herself and save the world. At last, immobile in herself, The Divine Mother gathered force and gave the world the mantra of renewal, the Mother's hymn of gratitude to the Master in the name and on behalf of all the world and all humanity. To thee, who has been the material envelope of our Master, to thee our infinite gratitude. Before thee, who has done so much for us, who has worked, struggled, suffered, hoped, endured so much, before thee, who has willed all, attempted all, prepared, achieved all for us. Before thee we bow down and implore that we may never forget, even for a moment, all we owe to thee. Prayers and Meditations, December 5th, 1912. Translated by Sri Aurobindo or revised and published under his guidance. In peace and silence, the Eternal manifests. Allow nothing to disturb you, and the Eternal will manifest. Have perfect equality in face of all, and the Eternal will be there. Yes, we should not put too much intensity, too much effort into our seeking for thee. The effort and intensity become a wheel in front of thee. We must not desire to see thee, for that is still a mental agitation which obscures thy eternal presence. It is in the most complete peace, serenity, and equality that all is thou, even as thou art all, and the least vibration in this perfectly pure and calm atmosphere is an obstacle to thy manifestation. No haste, no inquietude, no tension, though nothing but thou, without any analysis or any objectivizing, and thou art there without a possible doubt, for all becomes a holy peace and a sacred silence, and that is better than all the meditations in the world.
अग्निर्यथैको भुवनमप्रविष्टो रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बभूव एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो वहिश्च वायुर्यथैको भुवनमप्रविष्टो रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो बभूव एकस्तथा सर्वभूतान्तरात्मा रूपं रूपं प्रतिरूपो वहिश्च य एष सुप्तेषु जागरति कामं कामं पुरुषो निर्णिमाणः तदेव शुक्रं तद्ब्रह्मा तदेवामृतममुच्यते तस्मिन् लोकाः श्रिताः सर्वे तदुनात्येति कश्चन एतद्वै तत् एतद्वै तत् एतद्वै तत् दशवक्त्रा दशभुजा दशपादाञ्जनप्रभा विशालया राजमाना त्रिंशल्लोचनमालया स्फुरद्दशनद्रङ्ष्ट्रा सा भीमरूपापि भूमिप रूपसौभाग्यकान्तीनां सा प्रतिष्ठा महर्षिया एषा सा वैष्णवी माया महाकाली दुरत्यया आराधिता वशीकुर्यात् पूजा कर्तुश्चराचर सर्वदेवशरीरेभ्यो या विर्भूताहमितप्रभा त्रिगुणा सा महालक्ष्मीः साक्षान् महिषमर्दिनी साक्षान् महिषमर्दिनी साक्षान् महिषमर्दिनी पुष्पे एतद्धिपतये देवाय ॐ श्री दुर्गायै नमः श्री मीरायै नमः ॐ श्री मीरायै नमः ॐ कमलोत्पलधारिण्या शक्त्या लिङ्गितविग्रहं स्मेराननं सुप्रसन्नं साधकाभीष्टदायकम् ॐ गुरुभ्यो नमः ॐ परमगुरुभ्यो नमः एषु यर्घः ॐ श्री अरविन्दाय नमः एषु यर्घः